fix anything. So, Justin, we are actually live on LinkedIn
Oh,
and
wonderful.
YouTube and wherever else people might be watching. I want to
Fantastic.
welcome everyone to Expitality Time, the experience of hospitality, because I really do believe that the experience of hospitality transforms the world. So we have a lot to talk about in that way. And today I'm just beyond delighted to be here with Justin Salisbury. He is the president and COO of Breeze Car Wash. And I know a lot about this organization because I come from Fort Collins and they're everywhere up there. But I just want to welcome you. And Justin, could you just share a little bit about what is Breeze and what are you guys doing? Taking over the world, cleaning one car at a time.
Yeah, far from world domination, that's for sure. Yes, thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me. Uh, so Breeze Thru Car Wash has been really all about the development of people, preparing them for their future. The medium just happens to be car washing.
Huh.
And I think all of us know somebody in some business to talk about how much their people matter, and that's great. It's a lot harder to live than it is to talk about, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And as we now as a company, we exist from Longmont, Colorado, and then kind of up the I-25 corridor headed north of Greeley, Loveland, Fort Collins, Windsor, Johnstown, into Cheyenne, Wyoming, and now in 2 weeks opening in Laramie, Wyoming as well. Yeah, we're about 240, 250 employees at full capacity. And this is year 14 for me. Came on board very entry level, grew into the organization, now hold the role of president and COO, as you mentioned, one of the owners. And it's very unique in that this company has been so much built around the people that there's even a commitment to keep that intact through the transition of the original owners. So there's a plan in play to move some of the ownership and control to some of the owners with lesser interest, just to keep doing the things we love doing. Just like so many other businesses, we could have sold countless times over, but that doesn't excite us. When you find something you love, why would you change it?
Mm.
And that doesn't ever calculate in our minds. There's not a dollar amount to put to that. There's just an opportunity to thrive with why we do work. Again, just happens to be car washing, but started in 2007, and we're going on 18 years here, and really
Wow.
haven't looked back. So back to your world domination comment. I
Well, you
I
have
have no
grown a lot.
I have no desire to grow just to grow. In fact, I have a greater desire currently to pause and really build the company from the inside again. As you scale a business, particularly if you haven't done it before, which this is new territory for me, scaled it 100% 3 different times. In other words, from
Wow.
2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. A lot of lessons along the way. And the thing that still draws me is being an excellently run car wash company, which is part of the vision of the organization. So my focus is largely on that for the time being, and how long that will be to be determined. Not necessarily done growing, just putting more energy into the other column for a bit.
Yeah. Well, I want everyone to know that this conversation has been a long time coming. I met Justin, I think it was 2018 when I moved to Fort Collins from Estes Park. We just aligned on a lot of core values and vision and had coffee one day. And then I watched everything grow and I learned so much about you through your LinkedIn post. So, yay for LinkedIn. Um, and we've had other conversations since then, but the reason I wanted you here, as you know, and as I hope everybody's about to find out, is because hospitality is so important to me. And I really do believe in this tagline that the experience of hospitality transforms the world. I think of hospitality as a way of life, not a thing you do, but it's a way of being in the world. And Justin, everything that I have watched you do and what I know, the limited amount I know about what you do with your people and your teams and your customers, I think you have such a lesson to teach hospitality. Hospitality is missing the mark in a lot of ways, getting hung up on systems and spreadsheets and P&L, and all that matters, of course. But I was telling you, I was in a roundtable yesterday. We were talking about staffing, and people were like, "We got to replace them." I was in this meeting, and AI is going to do this, and I actually had a conversation with a great guy who sells a really great AI product that facilitates customer service. And he said he walked away from an organization who was just writing down names of, oh, I'm going to replace all these people. So this is happening in the world. And the questions being asked yesterday, I want to pose to you. How do you operate people first? If business is a vehicle for that, then how do you actually implement that and the strategy, and how do you be a good guy and still, have profit?
Yeah, that's a powerful question. I love it. Um, it may come as a surprise to some, may not, but I'm very introspective on how we get to where we are. A lot of times, the human brain is just making decisions without a lot of thought of why. I like to take time to pull back and say, okay, what was it about that decision that made it the right one? Why did I even get to that decision? And even for others in the organization. So I think about this is what my point is. And I'll say when you think about a people first operations, again, it's so much easier to say than it is to do. So much easier. And the real reason it boils down to is people largely are your greatest asset in terms of how you convey, whether it's hospitality or just an experience in general, and they're your greatest threat. So they are both sides of the sword.
It's true.
And we should learn to appreciate that. And so what does that mean for people in business? Well, first of all, it gets more challenging the larger you get, for sure. There's just more people parts, moving people parts, I should say. But when you really start to think about how to get there at all, the first thing I see missing in most cases is the organization. Whatever group of people largely make up the organization, usually at the ownership level or executive level or a combination thereof, they really don't even know what the organization is, the identity of it, the very identity of it. There's feelings that attach to what it is, but clarity is often lacking. And so you really owe it to you and everybody that works for the organization to begin with who are we and make it as succinct as possible. And we know this through the format of things such as values, goals, mission, vision, purpose. All of these things can be real tools in your box. Most people aren't willing to do the work it requires. And just to frame this a little bit, for us, more than a decade ago, it was working with a consulting group that was very resourceful in this space. It was 7 months of dedicated time, meeting 1 to 2 times a week and 4 to 8 hours each time we met. And so that was real dedication. And the beautiful part was when we high fived each other and we finally got to this bulletproof version of who we are organizationally, we all agreed. The next question was, how are you going to bring this to life?
Oh my,
Well,
I
that took,
have to interrupt you right there
yeah.
because everything you shared is so powerful. And I'm just launching a new 90-day kind of mastermind coaching vision thing for outdoor hospitality in Colorado. And people, they like to blow it off. They like to say, vision is my tagline. Okay. My mission statement. Okay. What does it mean? It really is such an introspective, intense thing that if you get it right, in my mind, it solves so many decision-making problems. Because if you really know who you are, it's just like as a human being in the world, if you know who you are and what your values are, you automatically make the right decisions in line with that. You don't have to agonize over the people that you
Mhm.
hire or who you go to dinner with. You just know this is what I spend time doing every morning. These are the people I go to dinner with. These are the people I just say, yeah, nice to meet you and walk away. So the same thing is true in business, is it not? Like, does it help you in those decision-making processes?
One 100%. And I'd say that the real test is when, let's say, there's a decision that needs to be made, and it could go not in your favor as an organization. Meaning, I don't know, there's some expense that you don't feel we should pay as an organization, but should you? And that's where the philosophical piece of who you are should really test, be put to the test. And in that moment, it's that you could think of that as like doing the right thing because that you've determined this is who you are. But if something was broken to get to that point, it's a feedback loop to enhance the system. You said it best. Yes, systems profitability, of course, it's all important. I think of profitability in business is oxygen to breathe. You need it. It's just that simple. Don't overthink it. But if that's your
Right.
focus, well, I can't go compile more oxygen molecules very easily. So why should I focus on the outcome? Let's focus on the things that change my environment or change the systems in this case to maybe better suit the organization financially, even though we did the right thing. So again, I just want to stress it really begins with that type of work. And
Yeah.
then bringing it to the hearts and minds of your people. You can't force feed this. There's no way.
Yeah.
You've got X number of individuals with their own thing going on in their own world. So now you have to start to say, all right, if this is important to us, let's not just look at who's here. Let's plan ahead. And how do we make sure recruiting is aligned with the people we need? A lot of folks that I talk to in the recruiting space often say, I'm just looking for the best people. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, reliable people. Is that all you need? Well, no, they need to be this, they need to be that. All of these characteristics and traits and behaviors start to show up, and yet it's not in the recruiting process. It's like, well, that's a miss. You have to be able to speak to that. So, a simple way to give you an example is everything, the nucleus of our entire identity is based on core values, two of
Mm.
them, professional and friendly. And we define each of them a certain way because we want absolute clarity. And so, a large part of finding our right people is focused on how they engage in the interview process. And we put them up against our characteristic traits of professional and same with friendly. It's
Yeah.
not everything, but it has to begin there. That's just a simple way to think about how to bring in the people. And as you start to, you really need to simultaneously look at the folks that you're bringing on board in addition to the people that are already here. So then you've got to have a good strategy. How do I bring this to like the routine meetings? How do I do this without just saying, read this, do these things? Well, one thing I'm very aware of is everybody has a desire to feel significant.
Yes.
Everybody has an interest in achieving things that are unique to them. So a good pathway there is like, okay, draw on their sense of significance, help them see how they matter, tie their goals into a line of sight to what the organization's doing, show how they work cohesively to support one another, individual to company, company to individual. So that's kind of like the next phase, if I would, is like how you bring it to both the internal and the external people. And ton of work, ton of work. I mean, we're
Yeah.
we're 12, 14 years of doing this, and it's constantly getting tweaked. Slightly now, but that's a lot of work. I don't want to ever dismiss how much energy this takes to do well. It's a ton of work. I occasionally somebody to say, when is it enough? When do you stop? I'm like, you don't. You don't. You adapt or die. You've got to keep evolving with what's around you, society, economic pressures, whatever. There's reasons to pay attention to it. After
Mm.
you've gotten the people piece blended, at least we'll say 30 to 50% well, meaning people can like recite some things about the organizational identity. They can tell stories that connect the dots with values or mission or vision or purpose or goals or whatever. Then you can start to really hone in on this. Now you can let some of the more gray moments where people that either employee to employee engagement or employee to customer, employee to vendor, those moments need to start having undertones of the organization. And those have to be learning opportunities just as much for frontline employee as an executive. They have to be thought through. And look, I've seen this thousands of times where when somebody's particularly when they're frustrated with something and their mind often goes to like disciplinary mode.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the time to do that. The time is to show great humility and go, let's think about how this fits into who we are. And that takes a mastermind of patience to do that very well. You've got to be very thoughtful to that as you track a trajectory of the person's alignment and performance. And so you don't want to make it like a crutch. You don't want it to enable somebody to get out of real problems. So how do you balance seeing their performance improve? In other words, can they learn from these things?
Right.
That's a threat to the organization when they don't do a good job learning from these moments. And that's probably where I would sever ties if you don't have somebody that adapts to what we're trying to achieve here. As you just nurture this in all the meetings, all the events, all the functions, it starts to come to life. And to give you a cool example from inside of
Yeah.
Breeze Through, every January we have an employee appreciation dinner. It started at Olive Garden with like 15 people.
Yeah, this is,
It's
I'm
five,
going to go back
it's
to this.
500 people now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where are you going this year?
So we've been holding it at Embassy Suites in Loveland, Colorado.
Okay.
And it's encompassing of team plus one and vendors as well. It takes all of us to win, right?
Yeah.
And of course, they have invites for plus ones as well. And so, in this moment, we've had some pretty interesting guest speakers in the past, and brought in people may know John Miller from Question Behind the Question QBQ book. He's out of the Denver area. He's done a great job with it. Loved the material. I remember we had him up there. I was so excited because it was great content, great book, and I still believe that. And it was a miss with the audience. I'm
Oh,
going,
no
what
way.
happened?
Oh,
And
interesting.
then yeah, then we had from within our industry, we had a well-known executive that's done some really prominent things as a speaker. I'm like, yes, this is great. Another miss. What are we missing? So we started doing these follow-up engagements with people at these employee appreciation dinners. And it wasn't glaringly obvious, but we picked up on enough to see that we should probably be drawing from stories within our organization.
Yeah.
I think that's going
I
to pay.
was just going to say that. They go ahead. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say.
So we course corrected and we go in-house. And again,
Yeah.
picture a big, beautiful event. We ask people that they dress up and it's a whole thing. Nice meal, a lot of giveaways. It's the vibe is incredible. And it kept missing every time we got to the speaker.
Oh God.
And they would change the whole night. And so we come up with a process. We put a few people's names on the board. We voted down to top three. We asked the first person, and if they didn't want to, for any number of reasons, we go to the second or third. Now, the first person has always said yes. I want to put that out there.
That says a lot.
And yeah, it does. And so they're usually learning this about this time of the year, who's selected. And we as a company make a commitment to work with them on this moment in time where they're going to have this professional communication to an audience of now 500 people. And that's in an effort to prepare them for the future. You couldn't ask somebody to publicly speak well if they've never done it before. It's not reasonable. And in our language, it's not responsible.
Yeah.
And so we look at that and say, let's get them all the time and preparation and run through they need. And that's worked out very well. And here
Wow.
comes the first moment of truth. And I think we're 6 or 7 years into this now. And you could hear, I remember this in part of the story, you could hear the air conditioning fan in this room running. It was so
Oh
quiet.
wow.
And I was like, whoa, this is
Oh,
this is
they're
working.
connected. Oh yeah.
Standing ovation at the end of it.
Oh
And
wow.
so I tell you this because it was in front of me the whole time.
Yeah.
The stories here made the most
Yeah.
sense because they were the most meaningful. The significance that came from not only that person being able to speak, but the residual from it. You usually get like 6 to 9 months of this wild interaction with people coming out of the woodworks. Hey, I have this issue too. Can you help me with this? Or can I pick your brain on this idea? You said this in your speech. It really moved me. All of these wild, wild things that help move the needle for a real positive culture, more engagement, better performance because of these things. And like those moments, you have to be very mindful of. And I could
Mm,
make a case that I never pause to think about that organizational identity we have to look at this as the right opportunity for it. And so learning
Oh,
lesson for me.
yeah.
Um, so just another kind of different way to look at
So
it. Like, when do
powerful.
you apply it? Everywhere, all the time.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
you'll fail. It will fail you when you're inconsistent with applying it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is such a wonderful story. And it's true, we're only blind in the places that we're blind. You know what I'm saying? Like you can work
You
at it
can't
and
see what you
it's
don't. Yeah.
still going to be like an aspect. Could you take us back to just to be maybe even more relatable to whoever's watching this? Can you take us back to when there was one location and the first employees, and how were you employing this in your, in just like, I don't know how many employees you would have had, but how were you integrating this type of employee engagement when you were
Mhm.
just one little
Sure.
car wash?
Well, I did come on board when we were at site number two. It hadn't been open quite
Okay.
a year, and we were probably, I don't know, say 22 employees or so at the time.
Okay.
And I would say this that the things I speak to now live largely in the hearts and minds of people, but it wasn't cleaned up in a way that was effective. And as I look back on that, I've often wondered, could we have done anything sooner to make a different impact? And I don't know, because I would say it depends on what your intent is with your organization. We had at that time an intent to grow. We had this target of like, let's get to 10 sites, and it wasn't a rush. It was do it the right way, speed of right, not the speed of light. And so we took the
I
time
like
to really
that.
just
That's
we took the
great.
time to just assess, what's most important. And a lot of the times it was largely build the systems, which, that's everything from training and operations, administration, brand, which is accompanying advertising, marketing, maintenance, and human resources. That had to be in place to scale first, which was pretty obvious. And so if you're a growing business, I would still say that's the focus. And I suppose somebody might ask, to what point? Well, I can speak from our experience, and I don't know if this was a quantity of employees or a quantity of locations. It's hard to decipher. I'd probably want more experience in other areas, other industries to know what would be a best decision here. But for us, it was like around the 5, 6, 7 store mark. Okay.
Oh,
So we're
interesting.
probably 80 employees or so at that time, give or take. That's where I was like, okay, I think we've proven we can scale operationally. Now we're starting to get messy in the culture piece. And I think, well, I was going to say everybody knows this. I say this a lot,
Mm.
probably because most people don't realize it. I have a culture, I don't have a culture is a conversation that doesn't even need to be had. Everybody has a culture.
That's right.
Everybody has a culture.
That's right.
But the problem is, what do you want it to be?
That's
And
right.
then how do you make that crystal clear? And then how do you bring it to life? Uh, that being said, I could see that all the things that lived in the hearts and minds of people around this threshold of, call it, 80 employees or so, were being strained. And I said, all right,
Hmm.
this feels like the time to bring it together. There's basically four key people that are giving similar but different direction, and that's a threat. And it's our burden. It's our cross to bear. So as you go back, it feels like a very natural progression for business and scaling. Now, let's say you had a single location, no matter how many employees. I would say there's probably a trajectory of stabilizing performance, and that might take less time because you're one physical location. It's certainly always harder as you have locations over distance.
Hmm.
Um, but if you were in one place, you'd have to really be thoughtful about what are you trying to achieve operationally? What are the key performance indicators? What are the critical success factors that you need to pay attention to? And if you're hitting them, okay, turn inward and really strengthen it from the inside out now. Because it's not about performance anymore. Now it's about retention, it's about engagement, it's about every experience every customer has. And I felt that rubber band effect as we've grown. It's like, oh, we're great again. Oh, we're slipping. And we're great again. And it
Interesting. Yeah.
comes with growth every time.
Now, when I met you in, I do think it was 2018, how
I
many
think you're right about
locations
that.
did you have?
Oh boy, you're gonna make me do math. Um, let's see. We were probably 2018. I feel like we're probably right about that point. seven, eight,
Okay.
nine locations, something like that.
Okay, great. So the reason I ask you is that I think it was at that meeting that you told me you were building housing for your employees.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, that's
and I
helping
had
with the
just moved.
timeline.
Okay, so I had just moved from Estes Park where that was just a huge issue. Everyone told me there's no way you're even going to find employees. Well, of course I did because I had a vision and a culture, but that every resort town, well, everywhere in America now, housing is a problem, but this is a huge problem for hospitality and people are sleeping in their cars in the parking lot to go to the work the next day. And I know, and I just talked to somebody in Aspen, they're saying they can't stay in the hotel parking lot. They need to leave. I don't care if they live in their car, but it's like, wow. And then you told me back in 2018, oh, we're building this community. People need this, so we're taking care of it. Tell me about that.
Ah, um,
Why are you doing this? Like, and why do others not? Right?
sure. I'll start with this. So I spent about 7 years in multifamily management, and at one point had almost 800 units that I oversaw. And that was mostly from the maintenance side, but it also overlapped into some of the leasing side as well. And I had this unique opportunity. Some of them were college kids, some of them were professional adults, some of them were law school kids. And so I saw a mixed bag, and that was really cool to see that. But I got to know a lot of the people, and I just heard stories and sort of just absorbed it all. And I remember thinking, boy, it'd be nice one day to be able to provide a place for people to live that is safe, affordable, yada yada yada. And I really wanted to figure it out without having to go down like the Section 8 path or anything else like that. Um, what happened by happenstance is simply that there was kind of a similar appreciation for that from the founding owners of Breeze Thru. And so it was on we talked about it. It was on the docket all the time, just talking about it. And it got to the point where we started hearing our own employees' stories. We built up a lot of trust within people, so they would share quite a bit. And that's great. You want that, right? You want
Yeah,
people to be able to talk to that. Don't mishandle that information. Take it seriously. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a white knight, but just take it seriously. Everybody has challenges. But one theme that kept coming up was this inability to get a good night's rest. My neighbors were so disruptive. The cops knocked down the door to the neighbor, blah, 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 drugs, alcohol, all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's like, okay, we had purchased a home that we use as an office. Then we sold it, purchased another bigger home that we use as an office. And then we outgrew that pretty fast. And it was like, we're on the hunt for a property that we can just maybe bigger than we need so we don't have to do this.
yeah,
Moving is
every
not fun.
year.
And the right property came along, and that I credit really the founder, John Agnew, for seeing this. He said, I see a property that's plenty big enough for us, and I think we can do the apartment thing. I said, oh, really? Fascinating. So why this is important to us in this case is it was never looked at as a moneymaker. It was looked at with everything that has to do with alignment to the vision of the organization. And just to be clear, our vision here at Breeze Thru is to be an excellently run car wash company that prepares people for the future and provides for the community. If you focus on the two parts at the end, the middle and the end, to prepare people for the future. Well, as a guy that's interviewed more than 13,000 people just for this organization, I've
Wow,
seen a lot of things. And if you get somebody to a point where they're self-sufficient and you teach them how to pay bills and you teach them how to budget and you teach them how to be responsible like a modern day adult, if you will, and then they tend to have a foundation that's less rocky. It's way more stable. They're more apt to thrive in other areas of their life because they now have like a center, right? And frankly, the other piece, provide for the community. Well, to be able to provide housing for employees is absolutely providing for the community.
absolutely.
Um, Other than the obvious tax revenue and all that stuff, yeah, whatever. We're talking about real purposeful stuff here. the individual, caring for them in a way that they can now really springboard into a successful future for themselves.
Yeah.
So we ended up figuring out how to add 10 one-bedroom units, and just working through all the details of this was a lot of work.
I can't even
The
imagine.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, without going down a rabbit hole here, the craziest thing was how much the city fought us on this. And I say it's crazy because
That is absolutely crazy.
at that time, you would see in publications the need for affordable housing everywhere,
Yeah.
and you still tend to do once in a while. But so outwardly, we're seeing this message, and then in locked rooms and corridors, it was, we don't want that here, and it's like, what?
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be a bureaucrat ever in my life
Yeah.
because I can't do
Yeah.
that. Um, but that being said, we figured our way through it, and have provided countless employees with the housing here. It's not just employees; we just give them a favorable rate. It works well with a pay schedule. And one of the things we said is like, hey, if we really want to help them, we should escrow a portion of their payment up to some threshold, which happens to be a few $1,000s, so that when they leave here, the next big challenge is having the down payment for the next place.
I just
And
can't
so
believe you're parenting people. I mean,
that's it.
you're
That's it.
parenting people, and not only are you contributing to the community in all the ways you already explained, but you're creating citizens, adults, people who know how to function in society. And the first thing they will do is pass that on to somebody else. It's just
You
in
are
the nature
spot
of
on.
gratitude. And then you're paying it forward all the time. I mean, I love so much everything about what you've done, and that business is just a vehicle for, what did you say? Do, do
In
right,
our case, to
speed of
prepare
right,
people for the
not light
future,
or
to develop them. It's we
yes,
could be selling hot dogs. I mean, honestly, it's like,
exactly. Yes, I totally get that. Why doesn't everyone in hospitality understand this?
so let's talk about that for a moment. I have a friend who's pretty high up in Microsoft, and
Uh,
I know of a story in the Seattle area where Microsoft, I don't know if they end up finishing this project or if it ever came to fruition, but it was on the table to do employee housing in the Seattle area. And he had some insight just because of his involvement in there. And I remember talking to him about it, and it really came back to this balance sheet and the P&Ls.
sure.
And I'm like, well, that's so wild. Like, there's a
Mm,
company with much more to bring to the table than we have
yeah.
in terms of financial contributions to things like this. And they're not seeing the forest before the trees. Now, again, I don't know where it ended up, but I remember at that time it was kind of like, we don't know if we're going to proceed. And I think, unfortunately, the pressures of just having a profitable business are too front and center.
Yes.
Richard
Yes.
Branson is the king of knowing how to build a business through his people,
Yeah.
and he comes to mind right away. And
Yeah.
there's other examples for sure, but the
Hmm.
point is if you know your outcome, that doesn't mean you're supposed to focus on your outcome. In other words, it's a
I love,
lagging indicator.
oh gosh, I
So what are the
appreciate you so much. Say it again.
so so what are the leading indicators that change the outcomes? And
Yes.
that's work. Again, I would say at this crossroads, some people just don't have the desire to put in the work to figure that out. It
Yeah.
sounds trivial just having the dialogue with you, but it's
Hmm.
real work to figure that out. And
Hmm.
once you do, if you just hone in on that and watch the outcome, well, it changes, and usually in a good way. I've only experienced it in a good way when we're focused
How have
on
you
all
done
the.
that though? Like, so when you say it is work, and like who's doing what? Because I've seen, like, I mean, there's so much engagement. I know you're always training them. You're having sessions and you're really teaching them skills. It's not just like a rah motivation. When people are
Oh,
taught real skills, that's how you build self-esteem and motivation. And it lasts. It's not just like, you know, a lot of positive affirmations and stuff. So, how do you integrate all of this? How do you do it on a daily basis? And then, because and I've been to your car washes many times. The people are, they're executing on a job that looks very simple, you know? I mean, they're standing there waving you in, or they're making sure your credit card works, but you know what? They're standing there. They give you eye contact immediately when you drive up. They're friendly and professional. And they actually assist you where most places you're just going to stick in your card. Or one day I couldn't find my wallet. I'm like, well, I've got some cash. Do you guys take cash? It's like, who takes cash? And they are hospitable. They know how to have a conversation and engage and make a very simple position into an experience. And
Mm.
that's the thing. Like, right?
Yeah.
How do you do
So
this? How are you doing this?
So I want to drive home the point from earlier, and that is
Okay.
when you get to the point where you can say this is who we are, you've got
Yeah.
to have the people that reflect that. And so there's a transformational process. And in our case, it took a good 18 months to really get through it at about the size
Okay.
of, 80 people or whatever it was. And as you get that build up and you continue to do that consistently, it'll only strengthen everything else because now you know exactly what you need. You're looking for it. It's showing up. It aligns better. These types of people learn these things. They value these things like you do. Then you get to this moment where it's like, all right, we got overlap systems with culture. And that means for us, how do you get the values to come to life through all of the systematized things that we do as an organization?
Right.
And it's so funny. I love this line. I use this for a lot of folks, and this I would say this is true for really any business. Boy, if it looks easy, it took a lot of hard work to make it look that way.
Oh, is that true? Think of every athlete and yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and so
Really.
as we bring this like to the lens of training, for example, you'll have vernacular from our identity woven into that. And so there's kind of almost a subliminal thing going on for a bit where it's like, okay, we talk this way here.
Yes.
And as you
Some
get
language. It's
into,
so
yeah,
powerful.
it
Yeah.
is. And as you get into moments of, challenges and constraints where the mind goes, I don't know what to do, you kind of do. You just don't know how to use the tools you've been given yet. And that
Mm,
is like, okay, if you thought about maybe a goal we're trying to achieve, it's like, how would this goal tie to deciding what to do here? Okay, great. Now, is that the respectful thing to do? Are we being honest with ourselves and the customer or whomever? All of these little checkpoints, right? You start to get this kind of 360 view of who we are in any given scenario. And
mm,
that might be, we call it the loading position where you're loading people in at the tunnel. That might be engaging with customers at the pay stations. That might be at lot maintenance when we're doing our 30-minute rotations. That might be any number of things that
mhm.
can go on at the business. If you do that, and then we have cadenced reviews, performance reviews, tie that back into the performance review. You generally most people like at a 90-day review, for example, um, they're used to if they've ever had reviews. A lot of these folks that we hire have not actually had reviews. They get into the review and they're thinking like more performance based. And
Yeah.
there's just you got to unbreak that a little bit. And so now they get like I'm being reviewed against values. Really? Well, I had sold this many wash passes though. Isn't that great? It is great. Let's talk about that. And you start to unpack performance against culture. And I'd say from there, it takes a really interesting turn for the better. Um, and it just gets more refined as you get farther down the line at, 6 month, 12 month, and then annual thereafter. So if you're not measured about how you bring this to life, and there's tons of ways to do this, and we've screwed them all up and we've done a few well,
Mhm.
then you're just going to be talking about it. You
Yeah.
have to be thoughtful about how to get it to come to life. And so picture yourself as an employee on an employee journey. You go through this recruiting process. It already feels different because you're like,
Mm,
something's different about this. And you're hearing these things and you're not ready to hit the I believe button. And then you're trained and you're hearing some of the identity of the company woven in there. You're going, okay, there it is again. And then at 90 days, you're getting checked on that against performance. Oh, wow, this is really important. And at 6 months, it's like you
right.
paid attention a little bit and it gets a little bit more ingrained. And then by 1 year, people are generally bought in because they've been to enough events that we have and functions. And I would say you get out to 15, 18 months, if people are here with us, which at this point more than half our company has been,
Yeah.
that you tend to have people that are now flag bearers of it.
That's
But it
right.
takes that much
Yeah.
time. So I'm talking a year and a
Oh,
half minimum
Justin,
to get to that
gosh,
point.
but look at you are, did you say, uh, what was the thing you said about speed of right, not of light? Is that what you said?
Yeah, speed of right,
Okay.
not the speed of
This
light.
is so meaningful because
It is.
next question that, and this is huge in hospitality, is turnover, right? Because they're dealing with disgruntled customers. What I say, it's not because of what's happening out there. It's because they don't know how to deal with it, like you're saying. And the way I felt when you were sharing that, I was imagining if I were an employee and first of all, everything you described is accurate. Like you're going to be like, wait a minute, this is a new paradigm, literally. It's a new paradigm for how a workplace operates, and most people have never experienced it. And then you come in for your review and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder what I did wrong. How am I going to be rated? Like you're nervous about it. And then all of a sudden, someone cares about who you are as a person and how your values are. And just that feeling of, wow, like, how do you even explain that? That creates loyalty because they do feel seen. They feel like, oh, I'm maybe who I am matters to this organization, right? And what I'm contributing at all these other levels, it really does bring me back to this idea of parenting because that's how you get your kids on board to not do weird stuff in the world. Like you become loyal to this family crest almost, right? Your brand basically. And and it's such a nuanced thing and yet I know it's a lot of work and yet it's pretty simple in terms of shift follow suit.
I do appreciate that, Michelle. It means a lot. You said something that caught my ear about the disgruntled customers and then hospitality and turnover retention.
Yeah.
Um, I thought I'd share something that might be of value. I've been thinking about like, all right, what could really directly be of value to the hospitality world, and I think this one might help. So we have disgruntled customers. Shocker. Everybody does.
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me the other day, which I've heard before, if you want to make everybody happy, sell ice cream. And I said, yeah, what about to the lactose intolerant people? And
Right.
it's
Exactly.
like my point is like you're never going to make everybody happy. So give that up. Be true to you and let the right customers show up. So that being said, with disgruntled customers, there's an interesting paradox when you build a really strong positive culture that happens. You basically take somebody who didn't have maybe a lot of belief in themselves, or perhaps just a variety of limiting beliefs, and you elevate their belief boundaries and they start to see something more of themselves. Well, what really shows up is an ego because now they're confident in how to do their job well. And the problem with that is you get pride in the way of resolving the disgruntled customer scenario. And so it now becomes me versus you instead of do right by the organization. And so one thing that's helped tremendously well in these moments is explaining to the team without any kind of emotional response to it. That's great that you got that complaint. And there's always this moment of what? Why? Where would we be if somebody wasn't so committed to giving us this feedback? I want you to think about this for a moment. What if they just left and never came back to our business? And it's like, well, then good riddance. What if they all did that? Well, I don't know. I said, well, we wouldn't have a business. That's the whole point. So you have to accept feedback no matter what shape or tone, pitch, and pace it comes in. You need to listen very intently. You have to listen with the intent to understand. So
Yes.
if you understand this, you will pull back layers and get to somewhere that's really meaningful to resolve the moment. But that's going to require you to set your ego on a shelf. We
Yeah.
know you're confident in your role, but it's interfering with your ability to hear the customer. And without hearing the customer, no matter how it comes back to you, we wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to really think about what that moment feels like. And you're going to have to take your amygdala hijack and set your emotions aside and really listen with the intent to understand. It's often, I can't tell you, Michelle, how many scenarios we've had over the years where we've been screamed at for a number of reasons. And in the moment, you listen and you repeat back, am I understanding this correctly? and it's kind of still at a level 9, 10, and just a couple probing questions.
Yeah.
It coupled with, hey, we did, if that's what you experienced, our commitment is to do this. I'm so sorry we missed that. We should be better than that. Is there
Right.
anything that propped that up? Is there something beyond that that we should be aware of? Where this tends to go is some personal conflict outside of our business, like
Yes.
clockwork. And it's like, wow, that sounds tough. Here comes empathy. And now it's thank you for this feedback. And they're like, wow, I can't believe they appreciate me yelling at them. And
Yeah.
oftentimes we get this, I'm so sorry I
So
lost my mind
sorry.
moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay. We're human. What we need to do as a great business, as an excellently run car wash company, is take the time to hear you, no matter what it comes at us like.
That's right.
I don't know how we're necessarily going to resolve it right away, but the point is you need to be heard.
And you're teaching these people these skills. Yeah. It's always an opportunity. And in hospitality, it's kind of like everybody knows that, like a disgruntled customer is your biggest opportunity. But like you said, knowing that in your brain and executing on it when it's right in front of you and you aren't mastering your amygdala and you're reacting because something happened in your life. Yeah, and you don't have the values to go back on, but what you're doing is giving them a toolkit because of you're modeling it for them. You're modeling this for your employees, and you're not just saying, "Hey, here's the handbook, you know, this is how you do it." It's
Well,
such a different relationship.
and you mentioned toolkit. I might as well mention this one too. I've got a good friend. His name's Dr. Matt Park. He's in the car wash space, and he was
And his name is Dr.
psychologist,
Park. That's
Dr. Matt Park.
Yeah, I'm
And
just laughing about his last name in the car wash, but sorry, car park. I
he so Matt
sorry.
Park also was a psychologist for NASA for many years.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay.
he's got these fun little, professional careers,
Yeah.
but he's really good at taking complex things that we experience as humans and providing useful tools. And I thought I'd share this because you mentioned toolkit. One of the
Thank
tools inside of these moments is because I often get, how do I calm down? Like I'm threatened, I'm angry, I'm all these emotions. Let's
you.
work through how to do that. It's very simple. Get curious, not furious.
I
And what
like
that
that.
means is really explore what you don't understand, no matter how far of a stretch it seems to you. Really ask questions. Don't even respond without it formulated as a question. There's two things that happen. One is you absolutely tame the amygdala. You can see it on
Right.
the scans, and your
Yeah.
prefrontal cortex gets involved and starts thinking logically, which is what you need in that moment. And two, you actually hear the deeper storyline behind it. And it comes from just that: get curious, not
Curious.
furious. And it's
Get
an
curious.
easy tagline to remember. So I thought I'd share that as well. It might be of use to
Oh,
people.
it's fabulous. I love it. Okay, I've got I don't know what time it is right now. I could talk with you forever, but I do have a couple other things that just popped in my mind. So, Um, how far do you take this, Justin? This caring about your employees? Because I have heard some stories that you've taken it pretty far. I know in hospitality, oftentimes there are issues with drug abuse and alcohol because they're in these environments where that's happening. But as you said, everybody has their challenges. And I know that your employees have had challenges that you've really stepped up and helped them. You've taken care of things for them within their families. So, how far do you go? How do you know how far to go?
Yeah. It's a great question. I thought, how do I want to frame this? So when we were smaller in size, it was again me and three other people that were we intimately knew everybody. It was just our nature to understand the people that worked for this company. And so that led to being very supportive. I remember everything from buying somebody dentures because their teeth had issues and they couldn't afford it so they had confidence in their smile. I
That's a
remember helping
huge
people with
thing.
it
How
is.
would you even know? Like, you'd have to be intimately engaged with people to understand. Who's going to even tell you that? You
So
know,
and I think this is where HR goes, "Whoa, don't cross those boundaries."
and you're
and
like,
and really, if you have such a high level of trust in your organization, you inadvertently have safe space to be yourself. And
That's
if you're
right.
not responding to things that are inadvertently wrong within the organization in a way that's emotionally responsive, and you're coaching to performance and you're aligning, they can feel good about the safety to fail. Being able to fail in confidence is a huge deal. So all of this sort of sets the foundation of, as we grew, how do we scale this thing where we've helped people with rent and medical bills and all this stuff, and it's never a moment where it's like, oh, you need money for a medical bill? Here's a few bucks. It's
Right.
always, help me understand that. Oh, what did you do? What's the pain point in your world? It's really comprehensively grasping it. Those are great conversations to have and not scalable. So we said, all right, we've got to evolve. So modern day, we said two things we need to do. We want this to live on, so we got to figure out how to get that to scale. But two, we want it bigger than this small group of people that's involved in these enhancements and helping people. So we turned it inward and we created the Breeze Through Foundation Fund, and it's a voluntary program. And as an employee, you learn at hire that you can contribute as little as 25 cents per paycheck. There's no limit. It's all voluntary. Nobody's required to do this. And we give them an understanding. The purpose of this Breeze Through Foundation Fund is to invest in the betterment of employees' lives. And then what happens is, if they decide to contribute, which I think a very high percentage of people contribute to this. I want to say it's like 85, 90%.
Wow. It's
It's pretty,
amazing.
pretty, pretty big, pretty involved. Um, our commitment is to give the feedback loop quarterly. Here's where the fund's at. Here's how people are contributing. And then we hit them with the themes of how we help, and we categorize it. We don't give names or anything, that's too personal, but we show them where their dollars go. Why is that important? Because if you're going to donate to an organization, we've all been there. You're at the checkout line at any grocery store. Would you like to donate a
Yeah.
dollar to whatever?
Right.
I personally hate
Yeah.
that because I don't trust it. Why don't I
I
trust it? I
don't
don't know
either.
enough. You know what I don't have time for? To know
Right.
enough.
Right. That's right. Exactly.
So so I take that idea, and we worked it into this system of showing them how their contributions absolutely made a difference in somebody's life. Again, they don't know who it is, but they know it helped in this category, and
Wow.
they see where their dollars go. And that has been a game changer for people. And so today there's a committee, a diversified through the roles of the company, a diversified committee that gets in. We have an application process. It comes in. Here are the questions, and here's the criteria, and we vet it. We make a decision. All still built around, are we doing the thing that reflects the vision of the organization? You've got to be thoughtful to that. And again, the vision helps you decide: am I enabling, or am I absolutely helping them because they put forth the work to do the best they could? And it's really helped. There's plenty that don't get accepted because it's like they don't understand they've got to do some work, and that's how you prepare people for the future. You want to make
Right.
something of yourself, go earn it.
That's right.
We're
But you're
still
giving
here
them
if you
the
get stuck.
framework. And a lot of people, you don't learn these things in school unless you're
No,
going to like a super cool charter school or something. But we don't
not my
learn,
experience.
yeah, we don't learn life skills and like money skills and communication skills and all the things. It's kind of like, forgive me for everyone that has an MBA, and I have nothing against that at all, but I just talked to yet another person, um, very, very successful, famous guy, actually, talking about his MBA from a very prestigious school. And I was like, well, what actually did you learn there? Where did you learn to be such a great business person? Building a business, right? And that's what
Yeah.
you're doing. So you come into your job, and this is where you have the opportunity to learn all of this, but you're really doing something so impactful and significant and different. And if you're not doing things differently, I propose that you're not going to really thrive in this new world that we're in. Like, people have to care, and people have to feel like they have somewhere to grow and that they belong somewhere. There are a lot of confused, lost individuals in the world.
I want to draw on the educational topic you just sort of presented here, because that's another thing that I think might open the minds of some folks out there in the hospitality world. So I spent about 10 years in college from trade school, associates, bachelor's, and all that. And there's value to it for sure. But to your point, my greatest education came from being involved in developing and growing the business. 100%. I said being involved. Some people say I grew the business and they're just the financer. You got to be involved.
Yes,
And
right.
so as
Hard
I
knocks.
earlier, I mentioned a little statistic of just the number of people I'd interviewed here, literally more than 13,000 people.
Wow.
And that was very insightful. One of the themes that showed up in at the time, the four unique counties we were in, an absolute theme was people. And keep in mind, we're generally hiring people, I'd say anywhere from 18 to 25 is the bulk of them, just by nature of the business. And what happened is I saw this pattern of people like just lost, right? I don't know what to do. I graduated high school, or I'm about to graduate high school. Am I going to go to work? Am I going to go get into college education? Am I going to go to the military? And it was like, man, I appreciate the time in life to have to figure out your next move. But I wonder if Breeze Through could be a bridge to figuring that out faster. And I wonder if we could do
Uh,
something that served them well in preparing them for their future. Well, I ran into this wonderful lady who we still work with closely named Nancy Murray at an event in Fort Collins. And she approaches me about apprenticeship programs. Now I get approached all the time for everything, just like so many others. And so
yeah.
I've got a guard up. I always laugh about this when I talk to her about it. And she's tough though. And she broke me down and she said, well, my understanding is that you have most of these things in place that you could build an apprenticeship program around. And I was like, how do you know anything about this? She'd done her homework. And so
Smart.
the conversation goes somewhere more net positive. And long story short, we end up launching an apprenticeship program in general and operations management. And why this is relevant is
Wow.
because you end up with a certification in general and operations management from the Department of Labor. So it's not breeze through, and it
Oh
doesn't apply to
my
car washing.
gosh.
It's general and operations management. It's a 2 year curriculum that absolutely prepares people for their future. To date, my understanding is we've graduated the most apprentices in Colorado, which is really crazy. I'm shocked that we have. It doesn't feel astounding to me, but when you see the people get through this program, oh
Oh,
my gosh, their confidence is an 11 out of 10. I mean, it is incredible. The pride, the just the enthusiasm. And the question early on to me was, what if you do this and they leave? I said, what if we do it and they stay? Like, who cares? Like,
right.
our commitment's to prepare them for the future anyway. Stick to the commitment. Don't worry about the outcome. There you are,
Oh my
focused on the
gosh,
outcome again.
Justin.
Just do the thing. Most of these people are with us today that have graduated this program. No pressure. They just decide to stay and they either move up or do better or make more money, whatever, any number of things. But as I look at this, I'm
Mm,
like, where did that really come from? And I remember being in school again for literally a decade as I'd always work aside alongside of that, like full time, if not a full time and a part time job, full time credit hours. I remember thinking, this is nothing. I have all the time in the world for this, but I didn't have a family. It's just me. And
right.
so teaching these kids to make the most of their time now so that
Yeah.
it serves them well later
Oh my
is
gosh.
really what I wanted to convey. And I didn't even notice that through this process.
Yeah.
So to date, there's a whole team that runs this program from our company, and it's just a function of their day-to-day
Wow.
role, instructors from in-house, full curriculum. It's really, really cool.
Oh, this, I didn't even know about this program. I thought everything else was over the top phenomenal, but this is so inspiring and encouraging, and I could talk with you forever. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking time to share, and I know I've been kind of badgering you about this for a long time, so
Okay, you're
I'm
persistent too.
glad you showed up. I am persistent, and
You
it's
are.
true. I am. Um, so maybe, I don't know, this just popped in my head. Maybe we could leave this on two things. First of all, because this is hospitality, and I can't get that LinkedIn post out of my mind about the green M&Ms. Maybe you can share that story since it kind of
I
bridges
would love to.
hospitality. And then I have
It
one.
does.
I know. I know it does.
So some people may know this. I just had that, we all keep these weird facts in our heads.
Yeah.
This was one of mine.
You obviously do, Justin.
I remember reading a story long, long ago about how Van Halen, when they were touring, like heavily touring, there's a lot that goes into setting up a show for any performance, particularly at that size.
Yeah.
And they would throw in there, we want green M&Ms in the whatever auxiliary room or whatever they keep the food or whatever. And they would deliberately put it in the contract as a detail that if they showed up and they weren't there, it would stop everything because there was too much at risk for the more serious things. And so they would go through and review the entire thing. It was their key indicator to go pause. We have to review this. And I thought that's so smart. That
Yeah.
tells you who's attentive and who's not.
It
And if
really
the green M&Ms were there, my understanding is the show would go on without any issue. Um, so for years, for years, I stayed at hotels enough to just all kinds of hotels from 2 star to 5 star.
Yeah.
And every time, no matter what, if there's an option for any additional requests or whatever, which there are often with most of these hotels now, I always say yes, some green M&Ms, please. And I've lost care for it because it's never come to fruition. In
Wow,
September,
never. Okay. This
never,
is
zero,
big then. Okay.
zero.
Oh,
I,
wow.
in September, I'm at an event in Park City, Utah, a vendor event, and a nice place. And I show up, and it's the whole experience from just like walking in the door, the greeting, and all that was great. I've experienced that before. Wonderful, nice touch. And I go to sign in and or get ready or get my hotel room and all that. And the guy goes, "One more thing, Mr. Salisbury," and then hands a bowl of green M&Ms to me. And my jaw dropped.
I imagine it did. Oh,
I
so great.
was so blown away that they caught this detail. And I want to be very, very transparent. I guarantee you it changed every experience I had from that moment forward because they paid attention to me at such a detailed level. And it was insignificant in terms of cost to them. I'm not
Right.
asking for the moon. I'm asking for green M&Ms.
Gosh, I love this so much. Yeah, this is
I
great.
promise you, walking the hallways, going up the stairs, seeing people and interacting with them, every little detail that makes it come to life at the hotel, inside, outside, I could be brought down. The problem could have occurred and I would not have hit me the same way because of that one attention to detail. And so that's the story. And boy, did that matter.
I I just no words for that. It's
It was pretty wild.
very powerful. Wonderful. Okay, well, burning desire for any, how do you want to leave this today?
Yeah, I think it might be helpful to capstone a few things through that. This is great. I just love having the organic conversations and more long form. I think that's the most
Yeah.
meaningful for how to get value out of this type of format. Um, I think I'd like to just come back to a couple things that I've mentioned.
Mhm.
One is one of the things I think thinking about hospitality particularly. I
Mhm.
know there are disgruntled moments that happen. It takes an army to make things work well for that singular moment in time. Yeah, a
Yeah.
transactional moment can destroy the experience because something got mishandled along the way.
Yeah.
Um, One is for everybody that has to interact with customers at that moment, really, really put some work into this. And you can look up Dr. Matt Park. He's got, plenty of
Yeah.
free resources out there. Wonderful, wonderful human being. But leaning into that, get curious, not furious, and really learning what that takes and triggering yourself to go, as soon as you feel the emotions well up, it's like, what don't I know? What don't I know? Just go there and
Oh,
ask the questions.
that's right.
The other thing I would say is the more comprehensive work for the people that are either a standalone facility or building or business or scaling or multiple sites or anywhere in between. Who are you? Have you done the work to identify that so that you can then do the work to bring it to life and the people there? It never should be force fed. It should be drawn to. And you're going to have to understand your people in order to get that line of sight to work really well. I'd say those two things is where I'd like to leave this one off on.
Oh, thank you, Justin. I think you're going to be getting calls for keynotes for the hospitality conventions now.
We'll see.
What car wash has to teach hospitality about
Yeah,
culture. Yeah.
maybe we'll see.
Oh, no, this was absolutely delightful. And again, I appreciate your time, your expertise, everything about who you are in the organization. And I'm going to probably bother you to do this again next year. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank
All
you
right.
for having me. I appreciate it,
Oh,
Michelle.
gosh. Thank you. It was lovely. Have a wonderful